A new Alone in the Dark game is coming, returning the series all the way back to its 1992 roots with a reboot of the game that helped create the survival horror genre. THQ Nordic announced the game during its 2022 game showcase, and gave GameSpot an early hands-off look at Alone in the Dark, which it calls a reimagining of, and a love letter to, the original 3D horror game. The rebooted title is a third-person horror experience that takes a page from more recent entries in the genre, like Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, and Dead Space. If you're not familiar, the original Alone in the Dark was set in the 1920s American South, and followed one of two characters as they tried to escape a monster-filled mansion called Derceto Manor. A lot of the things we've come to think of as survival horror, like dangerous fights with monsters that leave you feeling underpowered and solving puzzles as you explore, are major elements of the original game. There have been several games in the Alone in the Dark series since the first was released, but the latest game is returning to what made the original a classic, while updating those elements for modern audiences. Swedish developer Pieces Interactive is making the new Alone in the Dark, which also centers on Derceto Manor in the 20s and the original's two main playable characters, Private Detective Edward Carnby and Emily Hartwood. You'll choose which character to play at the start of the game, like in the original, but this time, Edward and Emily's stories aren't exactly the same. So to get the full picture of what happens in Alone in the Dark, you'll probably want to play it twice. Derceto Manor has been recast as a mental hospital for rich patients. As in the original game, the characters arrive looking for information about Emily's uncle, Jeremy Hartwood, but instead of trying to uncover details about the mansion owner's suicide, they're attempting to find him after Jeremy sent a strange letter to Emily. Derceto isn't the only setting you'll visit either. There are new locations that make up the game, including a spooky alternate dimension world you'll visit through portals, and which seems to be full of monsters. Combat is a major part of the game, and you'll use both firearms and melee weapons to fight some hideous, twisted monsters. Footage we saw included pistols and shotguns, but it sounds like you'll also have to defend yourself with whatever objects you can grab. You'll also face monsters you can't easily kill, which might mean you'll have to run away instead of standing your ground. The game's monsters are designed by artist Guy Davis, who worked on Gears of War 4 and movies such as The Shape of Water, Nightmare Alley, and Pacific Rim. Story is also a big component of the new Alone in the Dark, with Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and Soma writer Mikkel Hedberg penning the reimagined version of the game's tale. Hedberg said during THQ's presentation that the story will be more active than the original. Expect cinematic cutscenes and voiced dialogue, in addition to notes, letters, and other items you'll find as you explore Derceto Manor and the rest of the world. According to THQ, though the game will see you fighting monsters and occasionally running from threats, it's taking a different tack than other survival horror games. While most tend to focus on a more terror experience, Alone in the Dark is trying to explore other aspects of the horror genre. The original had a fairly Lovecraftian story with a lot of dense, heavy atmosphere and psychological dread. That atmospheric brand of horror is something developers are focusing on for this new game, and while you'll definitely fight horrific creatures, combat may not be the main thrust of the game. Alone in the Dark is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. THQ said the game has been in the works since late 2019 and is currently right around an alpha state, but no release date has yet been set. A teaser featuring Grace, a returning character from Alone in the Dark 2, will be playable at Gamescom later this month. And now, let's leave you with some more gameplay so you can get a sense of Alone in the Dark for yourself.